I guess the question here, though, is that within the Israeli government, as opposed to the Israeli war cabinet, there wasn't a lot of support for the ceasefire deal from the far-right members of that cabinet. And what we're now seeing playing out in the southern part of Gaza is kind of precisely what they wanted, this all-out offensive, if these reports are anywhere close to being true, on Hamas. So this does sort of fit in with the intentions or desires of some within that right-wing coalition.
Yeah, there's no doubt that there are members of Netanyahu's coalition who want to see this war just continue. But I think that really Netanyahu finds himself in a difficult position at the moment because the offensive in Rafah is going to come to an end at some point. And from what I'm hearing in the IDF, we're looking at maybe another 2 to 3 weeks. Israel has taken over what's known as the Philadelphia Corridor. That's where Hamas had its oxygen pipeline, what I call the Hamas tunnels that it was using to smuggle weapons in from Egypt. It's taken over parts of Rafah, not yet in the city center, but it's basically at this stage already close to breaking the back of those remaining Hamas battalions. That was the reason to go into Rafah to begin with. So the question after Rafah is what's next in this war? Israel has pretty much taken out most of the Hamas battalions in all of Gaza. Yes, there are, of course, going to still be thousands of fighters, but less in an organized way. And the deal that was on the table that President Biden was trying to push forward, that Secretary Blinken was in the region, he was just in Israel, was in Doha, was trying to also move ahead with and get Hamas to come into, was basically could have been something that would have coincided with the end of the assault in the Rafah area and been the way for this war to end. Rafah's done, and a return of hostages that would lead to a ceasefire. Without that happening, Israel's going to have to come up with a different alternative for how to get this war over.
What is notable, over the weekend, Gaza officials say almost 300 Palestinians were killed by Israel during a hostage rescue operation. Israel disputes that number, claiming it's less than 100 and many were militants. Last week, at least 40 dead in an Israeli airstrike on a UN school. Again, that's from Gaza officials. A strike which Israel says was precise and targeted and killed at least 9 Hamas and Islamic Jihad militants. At the end of last month, at least 45 people killed in a camp for displaced Palestinians in Rafah. Again, that's according to Palestinian officials in Gaza. Israel says it was another precise and targeted airstrike. The accuracy of the numbers can be debated, and you and I have discussed that in the past, and the credibility of their source questioned. But, the strikes are happening, and people are dying over and over again, and there's a common theme here. These are often civilians in areas that are meant to be safe, a UN school, a camp for displaced Palestinians, a safe zone. Are the Hamas leaders, which are being killed, are they worth the price being paid not just in the dead and the injured Palestinians, but in the growing international isolation which Israel is now facing?
Look, Israel's facing, and you said it right, John, Israel's facing a wall of condemnations and growing diplomatic isolation. But I think that Israel also has to do what's right for its own security. And after the October 7th massacre, it has to be able to prevent Hamas from ever being able to do this again. The one thing I would say, and again, we never really know the full numbers because they come out from Gaza, they come from Hamas. But what we do know is, yes, there is a tragedy that is unfolding in Gaza, and it's unfolding on the Palestinian civilians who are not involved in these terrorist activities. But the blood of these civilians is on Hamas's hands. And we saw that, John, over the weekend, or just a couple of days ago, with the Wall Street Journal report, where they had and received the writings of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, who basically is saying, this is what we want. We want these civilians to be killed because we want Israel to be isolated. We want Israel to come under diplomatic isolation. So this is part of Hamas's strategy. And the one thing I'll push back on is just that when the world sees that Israel goes in and rescues 4 of its hostages who are being held in apartment buildings by civilians or so-called civilians, but if they're holding hostages, they're not exactly civilians. Israel goes in there and does what any country in the world would do, the United States, the UK, France, Germany, you name it, to get back its people, comes under ferocious fire. Do we think that this is something that takes place in a sterile environment? It's like a laboratory. You knock on the door and you say, give us back our people, and they just hand them over? Of course not. So Israel has to fight to get back its people, but that's sadly the way it is. And that is Hamas's responsibility for allowing this situation to be like this.
Absolutely. And Sinwar is hiding underground somewhere in a tunnel, anyway. But here's the problem. There is a short-term goal and there is long-term survival. In the short term, yes, there's a war in Gaza and there is a determination to eliminate Hamas. Long term, though, Israel still needs international coalitions and support from countries like the United States and from allies in Europe. Without them, survival becomes very difficult.
John, I couldn't agree more with what you just said. You're 100% right. And Israel does need to work very closely with its allies because we're a country that's also highly dependent on the international relationships that we have, especially with the United States, which is our greatest ally in the world, provides us with a lot of not only diplomatic support around the UN Security Council table, where we rely on that diplomatic cover, and in general, helping us broker some of these deals that we need to see an end to the war and to get back the Israelis who have been taken hostage, but also for the supply of weaponry, for the supply of aircraft, to be able to even prosecute this war, to be able to defend ourselves. So definitely these relationships are super important, and that is this balance that the government needs to somehow manage. It's not simple. You mentioned those far-right elements in the coalition who are pushing for even more fighting and more of an Israeli presence in Gaza. This is not an easy task for Prime Minister Netanyahu to keep up with the war, to be able to defend Israel, to end it in a way that will bring back our people, but also to retain that important, critical security and diplomatic alliance with the United States.
Well, for Benjamin Netanyahu, you are judged by the company you keep, and he did form that coalition. Yaakov Katz, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us.